Hello, students at Bog School, Clifford Academy, and students all across the world. We hope that you're excited because today you're going to learn about a very special language. Also, a huge thank you to Strategic Staffing Solutions, proud partners of Shakespeare STEAM Online. Hey Team Sid, welcome to Shakespeare STEAM Online. I'm so excited about today's topic. The topic for today's video is a special language module on something called code switching. Now, for those of you who don't know, code switching is another term for a language we call Black English. One of the beautiful things about Shakespeare is definitely the language. The iambic pentameter, the poetry, it's witty, it's clever, it rhymes. You can't deny it. It's masterful. But even though all languages are created equally, they're not always treated equally by the world that we live in. What do I mean by that? Because the language of Shakespeare's time is older, a little trickier to say with the tongue, has all these and people have decided that it's more fancy. And if it's more fancy, that must mean it's more complex. And if it's more complex, then that means it's more respectable. Now you think we'd be over that way of thinking, but even in today's time, people have decided that within the English language, there are some languages that are more respectable than others. This is a problem for a few reasons. 1, there isn't some magical list somewhere that outlines what makes a language respectable. 2, even if there was a magical list, who would be the person qualified enough to say that a language is respectable? 3, sadly, the languages that are seen as respectable tend to be spoken by people who look a certain way. On the other side of that, languages that are seen as not respectable tend to be spoken by people who look another way. So in this video, we're tearing down all those false beliefs. That's why we're in a classroom, because y'all about to be schooled. Okay, take that out. Just take that out. One of the languages that businesses, mainstream society, and even schools don't see as respectable is a language that linguists all over the world refer to as Black English. You may have also heard Black English called African American Vernacular English, African American English, or Ebonics, which is ebony plus phonics. I want to say this loud and clear. Black English is a real language that linguists have declared to be a real language for quite some time now. Most simply, I've heard Black English described as West African sentence structure with American English vocabulary. But we won't get into a history lesson or the details of the history itself. But I will give you a few examples to show you that Black English is a real language. My favorite rule in Black English is what we call the habitual be, B-E. Now, the word habitual means something that has happened over and over and over again. Keep that in mind. If it's something that has happened over and over again, it's something that cannot be in the future. So, sometimes people will try to make fun of Black English and say, "I be going to that party tonight," and they'll just throw the word be in everything. But that's not proper Black English. In order for the habitual be to be effective, you have to say something like, "My friend be going to parties all the time." The habitual part is the friend constantly going to the party. So the be habitually becomes effective. One of my other favorites is BIN, which means an extended length of time. In English, we might say something like, "The pizza man has been called," which means that some time ago, someone called the pizza guy. But in Black English, the capital BIN means an extensive amount of time in the past. So, if I were to ask you, "Has the pizza person been called?" Someone in Black English might say, "I done been called the pizza guy," which means that I called the pizza guy in the past, but it's an extensive amount of time to the point it might even be ridiculous at now. Another one And I get really serious when I say this because I know a lot of people who have been discriminated against on resumes, in schools, and job settings for what we call ask versus acts. ASK versus AKS. In the English language, the word axiom existed long before askion. It's just that through the evolution of language, people eventually stopped saying axiom to askion. And then the letters started changing. So whereas it used to be a C, now it's a K. When people are discriminated against for saying the word ask, as in, hey, can I ask you a question? It's really frustrating because the word ask existed long before the word ask. It's just that now, in today's language, we use the word ask, and we automatically assume that someone using the word ask is ignorant, illiterate, or doesn't know anything. When actually, they're referring to the original and more complex version of the word. Despite Black children or Black adults hearing in professional environments or school environments that they are lazy, unprofessional, ghetto, using wrong English, these people are actually fluent in Black English. And they're actually speaking a real language that has just as much value and is just as respectable as French, English, Russian, or any other language within the English language. So here's a tip for non-believers and non-speakers of Black English. Rather than telling someone that their language is wrong, it would actually be more respectful and more accurate to tell someone that there is a distinction between a school language or work language and a home language, or that there's a distinction between an informal language and a formal language. Notice I didn't say professional versus unprofessional. Here's a tip to speakers and believers of Black English. You aren't denying yourself or your culture by speaking the language of school at school or the language of work at work. When you speak formal language at work or school and informal language at home, it actually means that you're fluent in two different languages. You're a gifted code switcher. We here at Shakespeare Detroit value and respect all languages, whether it be classical, formal, or informal. Our patrons and our Detroit community really matter to us, and so does the Black English that many of our students and our community members speak.